Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Gripe, the show where I do short, sweet reviews of new release movies, plus the one thing that annoyed me the most. Today I'm going to be talking about the film How to Be Single. This is one, it's a chick flick, so ladies, drag your men to this one because it's worth it. It's an entertaining movie, but just to kind of give you an idea what the plot is of this movie. So basically it's about, it centers around four women, four single women, um, played by Dakota Johnson, Rebel Wilson, Leslie Mann, and Allison Brie. Dakota Johnson plays a woman who, in college she met this guy and, got this kind of serious relationship with him going. And after, 4 years of being in that relationship, decides kind of that she needs to explore herself and kind of break away from that relationship for a little bit and try being single because she's always been in a relationship or she's been at home. So she really hasn't been on her own before. So she goes to New York, she goes to the city basically, and, gets a job working at a law firm where she meets Rebel Wilson's character, who is this just like, party animal, crazy woman, just have reckless abandon kind of thing, the what you would expect from Rebel Wilson in a movie, especially a movie called How to Be Single. And Dakota Johnson is staying with her older sister, who's played by Leslie Mann, who's a doctor. She's, a OBGYN doctor, basically. She, you know, delivers kids, but she doesn't necessarily want kids. She doesn't want to be in that kind of relationship. So, um, and then you have Allison Brie, who plays this character who's not really affiliated with the other ones in a sense that she is this woman who, in an attempt to get free Wi-Fi, sort of formed this relationship with this bartender who is kind of the like alpha male, always single type of guy. His entire like life is centered around how to basically just have sex with women without forming relationships and kind of forcing that out there of just being like, be in it for the sexual side of things. So you have these four women and they kind of all navigate their, their own lives. Like Alison Brie, she's trying to find the perfect man. She has like the algorithm for the perfect man. Um, Leslie Mann, she's not really interested in finding a man, but suddenly, after when she's forced to hold this baby for a little bit, she determines that she kind of wants to have a baby. So for her, it's going to be artificial insemination. Dakota Johnson, she, starts to, experiment and then kind of realizes it isn't for me. So she wants to go back to her old boyfriend and finds out he has already kind of moved on. He has a new relationship. And, as that progresses, he, ends up, getting engaged to this woman. But on her end, she meets, kind of, just haphazardly meets a character played by Damon Wayans Jr., who, kind of, she's, fascinated by this guy. He's, rich, he's suave, he definitely appeals to, the kind of guy that she's looking for, and he has a daughter as well. And, the movie is just kind of how they all sort of form, these relationships and break them, and, how, there's a bunch of different things that happen. Like Leslie Mann, when she gets pregnant, and then as she's like, starting to, as the baby is starting to grow, she meets a guy who's way younger, but also like really interested in her, and is played by, Jake Lacey. I haven't seen him in anything else, but he really owns this role pretty well, as this guy who, is obsessed with her, even though she's very like iffy about the relationship, and she's also, even sometimes just very direct of like, I am not interested. This, and for the first part of the movie, she doesn't even tell him that she's pregnant, which is weird to me that he can't see that. But then again, it just kind of strange. Then you have, Dakota Johnson. She has this kind of like sexual relationship with Anders Holm, the guy, the bartender who, is kind of helping Allison Brie navigate this, complex world of dating. And as she's like losing faith in trying to find the perfect guy, through online dating. And ultimately, she has this meltdown while reading a children's book to, a bunch of kids. And after that meltdown, she meets a man played by Jason Mantzoukas, who if you haven't seen Parks and Rec, is one of those characters that every time he's there is just one of those like the people you love to hate because he's just so funnily evil. And basically, in this whole time, Anders Holm, he's trying to maintain being single, but at the same time, he also kind of likes, you know, Alison Brie's character, and same thing with um, Dakota Johnson. She meets Damon Wayans Jr. character, and she really wants to be with him, but he has this past that he's not doesn't seem to be willing to let go of, that she doesn't even know about, and ultimately, the relationships, none of them seem to work out perfectly. I mean, the only one that does seem to work out perfectly is Rebel Wilson's relationship, which is nothing. She's, entirely just this free spirit, going to do everything she wants to do, no consequences, no regrets kind of, attitude that she has. Um, Alison Brie finally, finds her man, and Leslie Mann gets her man. Dakota Johnson, though, has all these different men kind of like interested in her, and then but she doesn't. None of them work out because it's ultimately what she discovers is that she needs to find herself before she can find a proper relationship. Before she can nurture that relationship, she needs to be able to be at peace with herself. And the movie ends kind of with that moment where she really does embrace that side of her. um, and then it basically ends with that, which I actually really appreciated the ending that they have there, because the whole the movie is a comedy, it's a romance, it's a drama, it's a little bit of everything, which you kind of expect from a movie like this. And one of the things that I always get annoyed with is how nicely they wrap things up with these sort of storybook relationships. The guy gets the girl, they live happily ever after kind of thing. It doesn't work out that way in reality. And here it does in a couple of cases. In a couple of cases it doesn't, which is kind of reflective of reality. There's people who have strong relationships, and then there's people who don't, who struggle at finding the one, as it were, or taking a long time to realize the people who are right in front of them that really they should be, the people they should be with. And it's one of those movies where you're not really sure how to feel about certain things, because obviously Alison Brie, like, she finds the man that she's kind of been looking for, but you almost feel like that's like she gets what you expect her to get, but it just doesn't feel right, because you kind of want her to end up with Anders Holm, who has sort of thrown away this persona that he's had of just being the alpha male single guy, to someone who actually kind of wants to wants what she is looking for. But of course, when he realizes it, it's too late, and there's this really awkward scene between him and Jason Mantzoukas that's just very, very uncomfortable. But you get a few of those scenes. You get a few like really uncomfortable scenes in this movie. I mean, overall, it's funny, it's heartfelt, it has a really good kind of empowerment message to it. In some respects, I'm not going to call this a feminist movie in any way, shape, or form. It definitely does. There are characters who kind of do embody that, because they focus so much on like finding a man, finding a relationship, doing that, until it ultimately comes down to, well, it's not, that's not the most important part of this. It's something that would be nice, but it's not the most important. So there is kind of that message in there, but it's not very strong. It's kind of hit or miss on that one, which is kind of the whole movie. The whole movie is a little bit hit or miss. And my key gripe for this movie is that it's one of those movies that doesn't do the multiple identity well. Like, there's movies that can do comedy and drama really well together. This one, it's like there's some good, like, honest dialogue, there's some good comedy, but then there's this weird slapstick comedy that they throw in at times. Like the scene in the cab. There's a scene in the cab when Leslie Mann's giving birth, basically. That scene is really funny, but it doesn't almost fit into the whole idea of the movie. I think, a lot of what Rebel Wilson does is also just kind of strange and, goofy and slapstick. It's one of those where I don't think that the slapstick comedy blends very well with the rest of the story that they have, because it just kind of comes in spurts. It's like it almost wants to be a raunchy kind of comedy, like a hangover type of comedy, but it kind of it fails in that regard because it doesn't do it consistently, and when it does do it, it's really off. It's kind of offset. It doesn't feel natural. There's a lot of comedy in this movie that feels almost forced, and I'm not going to blame it on the actresses. Dakota Johnson is, it's again, it's hard to say because there's times in the movie where you're just like rooting for her. You really want her to succeed. Then there's other times where as an actress, she just doesn't feel like it doesn't seem like she's really pushing her boundaries. And I know this might not be a movie where an actress really needs to push the boundaries, but again, the acting in some regards is kind of wooden at times, and it makes it a little bit uncomfortable to get through that type of comedy. Um, but I mean, it's loaded with actresses that I love. I haven't seen much from Dakota Johnson. Rebel Wilson, she's fun. Leslie Mann is always an interesting actress because she can play a lot of different roles, and she can play like the nasty mean role really well. And then you have the Alison Brie type, who's very innocent but at the same time determined. I'm not going to say this is her character from Community, but it is sort of rings to that kind of attitude that she brought to Community that made her character so endearing there. But overall, it's kind of an uneven movie, and that hurts it in a lot of respects. But at the same time, if for just like good 2 hours of entertainment, romantic comedy type of entertainment, I think it's at least a worthy entry. It's something I'll certainly watch again down the road when I'm bored. So what I'd give it as a rating would be 6.5. Um, you know, Decent movie. Like I said, it's got a lot of good stuff in it. It just has a lot of inconsistencies as well, and some wooden acting at times when it would either serve the comedy or it would just help the drama be a little more impactful. So 6.5, and that is my review of How to Be Single. So I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.